Optician Lesson 1: Anatomical Parts and Function of the Eye. In this lesson, we'll learn parts in front of the eye, parts in back of the eye, and the 8 muscles responsible for movement of the eye. So before we begin, let's go over some of the more surface layer parts of the eye. The white part of the eye is called sclera. The colored part is called the iris, and the black part is called your pupil. And this is the eyelid, and this is the lens behind the iris, and this part right here, this whole thing, is the retina. This is where all of your photoreceptors are, and this is where image processing happens. Parts in front of the eye. Conjunctiva is a clear, thin mucous membrane that lines the inside of the eyelids, palpebral conjunctiva, and covers the front part of the eye, including the cornea and sclera. Bulbar conjunctiva. So basically, for optician courts, the main definition that you need to know is that conjunctiva is a thin plastic cover in front of the eye that covers your eye from dirt, grit, germs, and when you rub your eye, it protects the cornea. And we'll talk about cornea next. One disease related to the conjunctiva is conjunctivitis. If you ever had a pink eye as a child, you had inflammation of the conjunctiva. This condition is called conjunctivitis. Cornea is a clear, transparent, dome-like covering over the iris, which is the colored part of your eye, and light first hits cornea to enter the eye. It bends and refracts about 70% of the light coming in, so images can focus on the retina and travel to the brain, allowing us to see it. It measures about 12 millimeters in diameter and is made of 5 curved, transparent layers of tissue. These are the 5 layers as follows. The epithelium. Epi means above, so this is the most outer layer that protects your cornea, and it's the one that can get scratched and be very painful if you get contact lenses that don't fit right, or if you rub and the conjunctiva is not able to protect it. Bowman's membrane. This is a layer of tough fibers that helps protect your cornea. The stroma. This is the thickest part of your cornea, making up almost 90% of its width. Descemet's membrane. This thin layer covers the next layer of the cornea like a wrapper. The next layer of the cornea is endothelium. As epi means above, endo means within. This is the innermost layer of the cornea. It acts as a little housekeeper, mopping up and getting rid of excess water that accumulates in the cornea. Over the years, it gets less efficient, and that can lead to hazy vision. Disease to know related to the cornea is astigmatism. Over time, changes in curved shape of cornea can cause astigmatism. These changes can contribute to nearsightedness and farsightedness. We will talk more about this in Lesson 2. Iris is the colored part of the eye, as mentioned before. If they're brown, however, you have more melanin pigment in your iris than if they're green. You have much less pigment. Other eye colors like blue and hazel fall in between, and less melanin or pigment equals more sensitive to light, while more melanin, like in brown or light brown, equals less sensitive to light. Pupil is the black hole in the center of your iris, and I'm sure you already know your pupil gets bigger or smaller in response to the changes in light. Muscles in the iris control this expansion and contraction. So if it's dark outside, your pupil will get larger to let light in. But if your but if it's light outside, they'll get smaller. Lens is the big, clear lentil-shaped part behind the pupil. Cornea bends about 70% of light, as mentioned above, coming in, while the lens performs the remaining 30% of light coming in. The lens is made of proteins that form a crystal-like structure, resulting in a clear lens allowing light to pass through. This is a quotation from the book called All About Your Eyes. I highly recommend you get that, as it is a clear explanation of everything that we're going over right now. And it'll help you pass your optician exam as well as this and other resources. Two diseases to know regarding the lens are cataract and presbyopia. Let's go over cataract first. As a person ages, the proteins in the lens continue to grow, which makes the lens larger, more cloudy, and yellowish brown. This normal aging is called a cataract. Best way to prevent a cataract is to wear sunglasses. Presbyopia. As we age, especially after 40, lens harden and reduce in ability to change shape, especially when focusing on objects up close, like reading a prescription or reading a book up close as opposed to a book that's 2 feet away. This can be corrected with simple or advanced reading glasses or surgery. And we will talk about more of this in lesson 2. Aqueous humor is not a structure, it's instead a fluid that sits between the cornea and the lens and supplies them with nutrients. So let's go back to our picture and see. So aqueous humor is right here, sits between cornea and iris and the lens. Disease to know about aqueous humor is if too much fluid builds up in the aqueous humor, it can lead to a serious problem called glaucoma, which is very hard to treat and is leading cause of blindness. We'll talk about this more in future lessons. Parts in back of the eye. Vitreous humor is clear gel-like fluid made up of 99% water and 1% protein. It fills the whole posterior chamber or back of the eye, and it keeps structures and tissues of the eye in its place. Humor means chamber, so that's one of the easier way to learn, and it is in the back, like the posterior chamber. This whole thing is vitreous body, and the vitreous humor, which is the gel, 99% water, 1% protein, is right here, and it keeps everything that you see here in its place. Retina. This is the most important part of the eye because it is responsible for image processing, as we'll discuss right now, but this is also where light hits. So light is first bends from cornea, then lens, and then it hits the retina if everything goes correctly. So retina is the thin layer of nerve tissue and photoreceptors that line the inside back wall of the eyeball. Retina is composed of 10 cell layers, which work to receive images made of light rays and transfer those images into electrical signals to send back to the brain for the picture to be seen. Rods are about 100 million. There's about 100 million rods that help us process black and white vision. It is located all over the retina. Cones, about 6 million cones help us process color vision. It is located in fovea, which is at center of macula, which is at center of the retina. So to learn more about where exactly retina, rods, and cones are on the eye, let's go and check this picture out again. So this whole yellow part is the retina, though this whole part is the retina. And rods are basically all over this. That's why there's about 100 million rods. They're all over the retina. And rods are responsible for black and white images. And this part right here is the macula. This region right here is the macula. It's a rectangular region. That's the macula. And right in center of the macula is the fovea. And fovea, as we just learned, contains the all-important cones, about 6 million of them, that are responsible for color image processing. We'll learn about the optic disc below. Retina is actually red in color. That's why when you take a picture at night with flash on, it can create a red eye effect because light hits retina and bounces off. That can allow a camera to capture this. And your eye works a lot like the camera. Choroid. It is a black pigment vascular tissue found between retina and sclera in the back of the eye. It is a network of blood vessels that supply nutrients and oxygen to retinal cells and the rest of the eye. Because it is pigmented black, it can absorb any light not absorbed by the retina. So this part after the retina that you're seeing is the choroid, and it's actually black. And what happens is anything that is not detected by, because it's black, it can absorb light, and anything that is not detected by the retina, which almost everything is, but if it's not, it's gonna the choroid can see those colors. And you can also see the choroid from the front, which is actually the pupil. Optic nerve. The optic nerve is an extension of the brain. It is also called the second cranial nerve because it is a nerve of 12 cranial nerves. It carries the nerve fibers and impulses from the retina to the brain. To be more specific, all the way to the occipital cortex at the back of the brain. So basically, the optic nerve is responsible for taking the information from the retina to the back of the brain for you to be able to see the image. Optic disc. Optic disc is where your blind spot is. This is where the optic nerve leaves the eye to the brain. So as we can see in this image right here, this is the optic disc, and this is where it's leaving. This is where you don't have any photoreceptors right here. After the choroid, there's no photoreceptors. So right here is your blind spot. And for a fun exercise, if you cover your left eye and cover your left eye, look at the plus sign, and go towards your computer, Eventually, the about 6 inches away from your computer, the black dot will disappear. And that is where you're blind. That is your blind spot. Optic chiasm. After the optic nerve leaves the eyes and before they reach the brain, they arrive at a spot called the optic chiasm. At this spot, nerve fibers from the half of each retina cross over to the opposite side of the brain. Fibers from the other half of the retina continue their journey to the original side of the brain. It's important to note that this is different from the optic disc and your blind spot. This is basically just where whatever you're seeing on the right side of the eye is processed by the left side of your brain. And whatever you are processing at the left side of your eye is processed by the right side of the brain. Again, it's important to note that the optic chiasm, which is right here, is different from the blind spot, which is probably right here, as we learned above. 8 muscles of the eye. Your eye muscles work in pair to move your eye. The pairs are superior rectus muscle, inferior rectus muscle. The second pair is lateral rectus muscle and medial rectus muscle. And the third pair is superior oblique muscle and inferior oblique muscle. Now let's go over each one of them. Superior rectus muscle attaches to the top of the eye and pulls the eye upward. Inferior rectus muscle attaches to the bottom of the eye and pulls the eye downward. Lateral rectus muscle moves the eye outward, also known as external rotation. So this is you basically sitting straight but moving your eye to the right. That would be lateral. Lateral means sides. And medial rectus muscle moves the eye inward toward the nose, also known as internal rotation. So just as lateral means sides, medial means towards the middle of your body. So when you move your eye inward toward the nose, it is medial. You're moving the medial rectus muscle. You're moving the other one as well, but you're moving more as the medial rectus muscle. So if in the optician test they ask which muscle is responsible for moving inward or toward the nose, you will select medial rectus muscle. Superior oblique muscle helps to rotate the eye and to move it down and out in a circular or diagonal motion. Inferior oblique muscle helps to rotate the eye and to move it up and out in a circular or diagonal motion. These two muscles combined help you roll your eyes. Thank you, and this was Optician Lesson 1, Anatomical Parts and Function of the Eye. See you in Lesson 2, Refractive Errors. Thank you.